Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Sir Spam28 here, bringing you some more World of Warships closed beta action. This video is going to be a pretty in-detailed look at the Mogami. So, while we have it in our port here, we're going to go over some of its features, its upgrades, some of its numbers, and then we'll jump into some live gameplay. The Mogami is the Tier 7 Japanese cruiser, a continuation of the line up from the Aoba, who I previously reviewed, and the link to that video will be in the description below. Whereas the Aoba was kind of the weakest point on the Japanese cruiser line, the Mogami is a return to form and is a pretty good ship. It does have some very interesting quirks, and we'll go over those right now. The first being, if you take a look at the upgrade tree over here on the left-hand side, you can see this is one of the very few ships in the game that actually change its main gun caliber. By default, with the 1935 hull, when you first unlock this ship, you'll have 155mm, that's 6-inch guns. You can see that this ship does have 5 turrets, 3 in the front, 2 in the back. With those 6-inch guns, you'll have 3 barrels per turret, giving you a whopping 15 6-inch guns by default. This gives the Mogami in its default configuration, and if you choose not to upgrade the guns, with the 6-inch gun configuration, a very healthy volume of fire and rate of fire, dwarfing even the Cleveland with its volume and rate of fire, which is something that not a lot of ships can lay claim to. This really does give you kind of an edge at shorter ranges against other cruisers and destroyers, at the expense of course, that alpha damage, that flatter firing arc, that increased penetration capability, and really a lot of lower DPS against the heavily armored targets like battleships in the game. Now, if you choose, once you unlock the 1943 version of the hull, you can upgrade to the 203mm guns, which are these 8-inch guns, which chops a barrel off of each turret, leaving you with 10 8-inch guns, which is comparable to the 10 8-inch guns on the Tier 7 US heavy cruiser, the Pensacola. I personally prefer 8-inch guns. That's the playstyle that I like to work with. I like the flatter firing arc, I like the increased range, I like the increased penetration and upfront alpha damage, and I like the fact that you can really reliably do about 4,000 to 5,000 damage per salvo with the 8-inch guns against battleships, which, if you get the jump on them and if their turrets aren't pointing towards you, means that you can rack up some pretty serious damage against them with the 8-inchers as compared to the 6-inch guns. These 8-inch guns also allow you to stand off of targets more, which is something that you want to be doing in the Mogami. Taking a look at the numbers on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see its combat capability is 38,400. This is a much bigger and heavier ship than the Pensacola, which translates to 4,000 more HP than the Pensacola. You can see its armor is 6 to 140mm, which doubles the Pensacola's armor at the thickest points, but 140mm of armor still is not enough to stand up to 6-inch shells, to 8-inch shells, and to any battleship shells, and even at very close ranges, the 5-inch shells, if they get flush shots, are going to be able to reliably penetrate 140mm of armor. The other major problem with the Mogami is just its size and its profile. You can see just how much of this ship there is to shoot at above the waterline. It's pretty tall, and when I say tall, I'm talking about really from waterline to gunnel rails here. There's just a lot of ship to shoot at. It's also pretty long and pretty wide, so even if you're angling it, you can see you get a lot of the ship to shoot at. And given its kind of turret layout, it means that the citadel area is pretty large. The central citadel area with your boilers is going to be from about here to here. And then with these 3 turrets in the front, you've got these massive frontal citadel area regarding the magazines in the front, and then of course with the rear 2 turrets, you've got the rear magazine citadel area in the back. So there's just a lot of ship to shoot at, and especially in the middle here, even if you're going over the citadel, you're still hitting kind of vital areas in the middle of the ship. So even if you're not getting that citadel crit, you're still probably going to be able to fully pen and get big damage numbers. So if this ship is broadside to the enemy and gets focus fired, it can rapidly lose that 38,000 health pool. It's pretty easy to go out really fast in this ship. So you want to, again, kind of stand off with these 8-inch guns if you choose to upgrade to the 8-inch guns, and focus on enemies that aren't shooting at you. Really kind of be an opportunistic cruiser. Like I said before, I have it upgraded to the 8-inch guns. So let's take a look at the numbers of those. You can see 4 rounds a minute. So shots out every 15 seconds, which isn't that bad for the 8-inchers. The 180-degree turn time is 30 seconds, which is pretty slow, but at the same time is something that you can work around. It's definitely not battleship slow, and it's not HMS Warspite slow. That's for damn sure. The maximum dispersion is 134 meters at the max firing range of 14.7 kilometers, which translates to a pretty accurate gun. I also include the improved accuracy upgrade on the main batteries, just because with the 8-inch shells, you really, again, kind of have your volume of fire as compared to the 6-inchers, so every shell counts, so I like to make sure that my fire is as accurate as possible. You can see the max HE shell damage is 2,170 with a 14% chance of fire, and the max AP shell damage is 5,170, again, with the 8-inch guns. And as previously stated, the firing range on these 8-inchers is 14.7 kilometers, which isn't as long as the firing range on the US 8-inch guns, but is still longer than any of the 5 or 6-inch guns in the game. Taking a look at its secondary armaments, not the greatest. You can see it's got these 5-inch turrets on the side here. It's got 4 of these double-barreled turrets, 2 per side, which translates to 4 5-inch guns per side. These also do count as AA guns, but these are your only secondary armament, which means that if destroyers get in close to you, you really need to be turning your main batteries to engage those destroyers, as this limited amount of secondary fire is really not going to be enough to meaningfully impact any close-range ships. You really do have to pay attention to them with your main batteries. It also, as all Japanese cruisers are, is equipped with torpedo tubes. They are 610mm torpedoes, so rather large, and it's got 4 triple-barrel torpedo tubes, 2 on each side. So it gives you a maximum spread of 6 torpedoes per side. And if we zoom in here, you can see they're kind of tucked away through these little ports. Hovering over, you can see that these torpedoes, fully upgraded, mind you, there's a torpedo upgrade on this ship, have a reload time of 103 seconds, so just over a minute. They do a maximum damage of 17,233, so a very healthy amount of damage per torpedo. And upgraded, the speed is 62 knots, so pretty fast for a torpedo as well, with a max range of 10 kilometers. So the torpedoes on this ship are in fact pretty good, and they do give you a very nice edge against other cruisers and capital ships such as battleships and carriers. Now, the bad thing about the torpedoes is the fact that they are hidden in these ports, which means that the firing arc on the torpedoes is really from about here back. It's a pretty narrow firing arc, and it really only faces backwards, which means that you really have to maneuver this ship to have your stern pointing towards the enemy to get those torpedoes on target. But luckily, these forward batteries, and indeed the rear batteries, they actually can swing around pretty far, which means that a lot of the times, even if you're at extreme angles like this, or if the enemy's off your stern, like that, like say this tall ship over here, I'd be able to have all 5 turrets focused on that tall ship in this ship. These turrets can swing around pretty fast. The only one that gets cut off a little bit is the central turret here. You can see just the walls here on the ship really prevent it from swinging around that far. And also another thing to note with that central turret is it's right in line with the forward turrets. So if you have something directly in front of you, that turret cannot fire as it's being blocked by the main forward turret. So you really do want to be, you know, let's say I was aiming at that lighthouse. I'd want to be, you know, at about well, let's say like this angle here. Let's actually make it the mountain peak. I don't want to be about that angle to really get all of my guns effectively on target. And also, kind of in between shots, strategic tip with this ship is you really want to be kind of, you know, churning to fire all of your guns, and then when he's about to fire, turn into him, you know, point your bow at him to really take away, again, like I said, this massive amount of ship that he's able to shoot at. Continuing on with the stats of the ship, you can see its AA guns, while not being as good as the US cruisers, are fairly reasonable. You can see it's got 10 25mm cannons, it's got 4 of the double-barreled 25mm cannons, and 8 of the triple-barreled 25mm cannons. And all of these 25mm cannons have a range of 3 kilometers, and they all do a pretty good amount of DPS. And then for its long-range AA fire, you can see it's, again, got those 8 5-inch guns along the side there. So, just like the Aoba, if you want to be an effective anti-aircraft screen, you do have to get up close and personal with any capital ship you're escorting, as the vast majority of your AA firepower is sub 3 kilometer range. But if any planes do come within 3 kilometers of you, just like the Aoba, you're going to be doing a lot of good work against them. The maneuverability on this ship isn't the greatest. You can see its maximum speed is 35 knots, which is, you know, respectable, but it does kind of take a long time to get up to that. And that, again, I think is just due to kind of how wide the ship is at its widest point. And its turning circle radius is 870 meters, which isn't the greatest. This is definitely a heavy cruiser, and you are not the most nimble of ships. So you want to make sure that you're planning your moves beforehand, before you get in any narrow channels or trying to, you know, circle around islands. This ship doesn't make U-turns very easily, and it's pretty easy to run aground. As far as upgrades go, I like to run the main battery modification 1, just to make sure that if any of my main batteries do get knocked out, they repair faster. And it also lessens the chance of a magazine explosion. You can see that negative 20% chance of magazine detonation, which is something that one-shots your ship, so you want to avoid that. I run the gunfire control system 1, again, like I said before, to increase that main battery firing accuracy. This is a pretty big and heavy ship that comes under fire a lot, so I run damage control system 1 just to reduce that chance of fire and flooding. And then, because its turning circle radius is pretty big and the maneuverability is one of its weaknesses, I also run the steering gears modification 2 to reduce that rudder shift time, just to give myself a little bit of an edge. Again, this ship is pretty long, so it is a magnet for enemy torpedoes, so having this rudder shift time upgrade means that you can turn your bow and try to avoid torpedoes better than if it wasn't there. So that's kind of a look at the numbers of the Mogami, Tier 7 Japanese cruiser. We'll go ahead and jump into a game or two and see how she does and explore some of the tactics that you want to be using with the ship on the open seas. As I said before, I use the 8-inch guns, so the gameplay will be focusing and, I guess, featuring those 8-inch guns. If you want to use the 6-inch guns on the ship, you probably want to watch people's, or even my own, Cleveland kind of reviews or replays. The gameplay is going to be very similar. It's actually going to have kind of a similar profile, a similar size, similar maneuverability, and similar firepower to a Cleveland if you're equipping the 6-inch guns. But with the 8-inch guns, we'll see what she can do. So getting into our first game here, just to kind of clean up the previous bit, numbers that I forgot to mention were actually the detectability of the ship. Those were hidden, had to scroll down to see them, forgot about them, but just real quick, the surface detectability range of the Mogami is actually a pretty good 10.8 kilometers, and the air detectability range is 7.6. So with a 14.7 max range on the 8-inchers, means that you actually have 4 kilometers where you can shoot and then re-stealth after the shots go out. So just wanted to mention that right off the bat. Now, getting into this game, we can see that right off the bat, they have a Lexington to our Ranger, so our air power is dominated. They have an Amagi, Nagato, and a Warspite to our Amagi, Nagato, and Fuso. I like the Fuso over the Warspite. If they were played evenly, I think the Fuso wins that battle every time. We have a New Orleans to their New Orleans, and Atlanta to one of their Pensacola's, which could be good or bad. Pensacola's are equal. Mogami to their Aoba, which is nice. And then we actually have an extra cruiser with the Cleveland. And then we have a Tier 9 Fletcher destroyer and a Benson and a Farragut to 2 of their Bensons and 2 of their Farraguts. So I quite like having the Cleveland over, having an extra cruiser over an extra destroyer on their team. But the Atlanta for the Pensacola could be a negative trade-off, but we'll see how the game develops. So as we wait for our team to kind of deploy here, go ahead and load the AP and see what's going on. All of the battleships are down here, which is kind of a long haul. And they do have 1 aircraft carrier, but with just 1 aircraft carrier, I think those battleships can kind of take care of themselves. So I might actually steam up here, and we'll see if we can't stick with these cruisers.
Autopilot mode enabled.
And destroyers in this direction while we wait for our battleships to kind of cruise here. We'll play in this area. We'll focus on C and B in this match, as we've already fast captured A with a destroyer down there. We'll see if we can't kind of cruise around and protect B and C. Like I said before, this ship is very easy to have all of its health disappear pretty rapidly if you start taking focus fire. So we'll stay in the back. We'll keep these destroyers and this other cruiser in front of us. That is Tall Sails. Tall Sails is in a New Orleans, so that's good. Good firepower there. And we'll also kind of stick with these islands here, just to get some hard cover. As we see some torpedo planes coming in 13 kilometers, looking for any targets on the horizon. Can't see anything yet. But we'll see. Shot down a fighter there, which is nice. These torpedo bombers coming in do make me pause. So as they're coming in, I'm going to keep on this course. We'll see if they switch direction, if they're going for me or going for that Cleveland over there. As they're starting to come in close, we'll make sure that our bow is pointing fully into them. And see, now that they're coming under 3 kilometers, we'll actually pop that focus AA fire and see if we can't shoot down some of these bad boys. As they're flying directly over me, I think heading for the Ranger. As those guys are getting out of the 3 kilometer range, we'll switch focus to these guys. And you can see that the AA fire is good, but it's not as great as a Pensacola even at that sort of range. With a Pensacola, I would have killed a lot more of those ships. Okay, we have an Aoba off of our port bow here. And here we go. We found the other enemy cruisers, Pensacola and New Orleans. Going to unlock the guns, swing over. That New Orleans is going to get behind cover, so we'll look for the Pensacola that was behind him as we try to maneuver to avoid running aground. The Aoba also makes a tempting target. That New Orleans just got hammered, but there's the Pensacola. We'll see. We'll put out a ranging shot. We'll see where those are going to be. Ours are the orange shells. That's how you can tell which shells are yours or not. They look to be pretty on target.
The enemy team has taken the
So
lead.
we'll lead a little bit here and then put more shells out. Maneuver a little bit to get our back turrets in play and see if we can't get some good Citadel hits going on. Nope. At these sort of ranges, you are playing with what is the maximum dispersion of these guns. So at, you know, the 14.7 kilometer range, these guns are, of course, going to be their least accurate. Now, I want to get some shots on this Aoba, so I'm going to cut speed as a maneuver and see if I can get my turrets rotated over. Yes, we can. And we'll put shots right about there. And you can see that the front turrets can get around.
Our team has taken the lead.
To shoot at that range as well. And those shots were a little bit short. So, missed there. But we are cutting the range with these other cruisers over here. As we come around this island, we'll see what we can do. Make sure that our guns are pre-aimed. And as we're getting in these islands, and there's some destroyers kind of over there, I'll launch my scout plane just to get some extra vision. This guy is... We'll put some shots there, see what we can do. He keeps disappearing through the smoke, which is no good. But we'll turn in and see if we can't. Okay, those were a little bit behind.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
Turn a little bit to get our rear batteries in and see what we can do against the New Orleans. The New Orleans is a bigger threat than the Pensacola, so we'll focus him down first if we can. He has maneuvered, so we'll turn again and get on this Pensacola now. And you can see the rate of fire on the 8-inch shells again, 4 shots a minute, so shells out every 15 seconds. This Pensacola has started to maneuver now again, which means that he's only got 5 guns pointing towards me. To my all 10 guns pointing at him. So we'll see if we can't get some good damage done on him. I am going to continue to maneuver just because I don't want to run into the edge of the map. As my guns come up to a reload, he's starting to straighten out a little bit. So we'll put another broadside in there and see if we can't rain some shells down on him. Straddling the ship, which is something that is unfortunate. Again, 12.5, so not our max range, but still not as close as we would like. He's starting to maneuver back again. We're going to start to maneuver as well, just to hopefully throw off some of these shells. Wasn't the most well-aimed of shots. We're actually going to close in. This may be a little bit suicidal, Because like I said before, you don't want to be the one that's being under focus fire, but at the same time, I'm just not getting lucky with these guns right now. So we'll continue maneuver, and hopefully we can knock some of these guys down. I really want to see some Citadel hits here. These U.S. cruisers are not the most heavily armored, so hopefully these 8-inch shells can start doing work. As we close the distance here to this New Orleans. There's the Citadel hits we wanted to see. Like I said before, when you're in between shots like this, you want to be kind of, you know, turning and maneuvering your bow towards the enemy there. Took some damage there. As that New Orleans is going to go behind that little iceberg, we'll switch over to the Pensacola as our turrets swing around. We'll swing a little bit to get that back one there, and then we'll start churning back again. We are 3-capped at this point, which means that they have a pretty healthy points lead on us. And we'll switch over to this New Orleans as he is, again, closer to us now. We'll get all 3 forward turrets, then we'll swing a little bit to get the back turrets in the game. And then we'll swing our bow again once again towards him, just to reduce the amount of fire that we can take. As our front turrets reload. Get some more Citadel hits in there, and you can see just again, and now our back turrets are in the game, so we'll go ahead and swing them around, and our front turrets are in the game, so we'll swing them around as this guy continues to turn.
Problem solved, sir.
And we'll chase him down with our front guns here. But at the same time, we've got this cruiser over here, so I don't want to turn broadside to him. Well, he's on the other side of this island,
The
so
enemy team has taken the lead.
we'll continue on this guy. And then as this guy comes around this island, we'll hit him with our rear guns. And we can also maybe get some torpedoes on him as well. There is a destroyer over there, which is not good. We'll see if we can't sink this guy as well. Yeah, now we're heading into this destroyer, which means there are going to be torpedoes in the water. But our bow is pointing towards him, so I'm not that worried about him. We have brought the caps back, and we are winning on ships, so that is pretty good. So that little engagement, it was, you know, I had backup from cruisers behind me, but I really kind of charged in there and took the lead.
Our team has taken the lead.
This is kind of scary with this destroyer maybe being in the smoke. So there he is. So keeping our bow pointing towards him is good. I'm going to start actually maneuvering this way. Because and then I'm going to start turning this way. Because I do not want to get hit with torpedoes, but unfortunately I probably am. He's coming in pretty close to us. We'll see if we can't actually launch some torpedoes at him and hit him. And boom, there we go. We are on fire. He was shooting HE at us. We'll go ahead and press that repair button and get that taken care of. I think his torpedoes were on reload. I actually did see a torpedo kind of indicator. But we were swinging our bow front, port and starboard, so those torpedoes missed wildly. And I think he forgot that, you know, maybe we had torpedoes as well. With the 30-second 180-degree turn time, you can see at that sort of range, I wasn't really able to keep my main batteries on him. But that's where the torpedoes come in. So now we've kind of broken through. We have B, C, and D. We have a slight edge on points. But now we're going to go ahead and start steaming down this back side of the map towards A to see if we can't intercept anything. Like this other destroyer over here, who seems to be AFK, which is unfortunate. But, you know, it is what it is. And we'll get all of our guns on him. And, see if we can't take him out.
Target penetrated.
You know, this is kind of free extra damage, but And, it makes me feel bad. At the same time, hey, take what they give you. And that should be him down. And that had actually pushed us over the points lead for the win. So, didn't have to tangle with any battleships, which is good. This ship does not stand up to battleships very well. Unless you can ambush them at close range with your torpedoes, which are kind of that close range equalizer. But anything past 10 kilometers, tangling with battleships in this ship is not a great idea. Just because it is so big and you have so little armor. That it's really easy for their shells to hit you, and any AP shell that does hit you is probably going to fully penetrate. So even if they don't hit your citadel, they're going to be doing massive amounts of damage. So you don't want to be tangling with battleships. If you see battleships or the main battleship force, run away in the Mogami. I know that sounds like a cowardice type thing to do, but you're not able to stand up to them. You are really good at shooting other cruisers and destroyers, as demonstrated by this game. So taking a look at the numbers, you can see this is the first one of the day, and with the premium account, so 4,905 total XP, 358,000 credits earned. Taking a look at the team score here, you can see the base experience, a pretty great game at 2,180. We were able to sink 4 ships. One of those was an AFK destroyer, but we got a New Orleans, a Pensacola, and I believe that was a Farragut, the destroyer that we were able to sink with our torpedoes. Let's look at the detailed report and see. It was the one that we got with torpedoes. So I don't know. It doesn't really show. It was either the Farragut or the Benson. I don't know which one was the one that was AFK or not. But so, 2 Pensacola's, or a Pensacola and New Orleans, and then 2 destroyers. Not a bad haul. You can see with the main guns, we fired 180 shells, which is a healthy amount to be firing in a match. We hit 57 times for 52,995 damage, including 49 penetrations. Again, those U.S. cruisers are not very well armored, so we're going to pen with most of our shots. We can see we launched 3 torpedoes. We hit with 1 for 7,000 damage, which was the death knell on that destroyer that got way too close to us. And you can see, again, that destroyer was pretty close to us. And the secondaries only did 1,000 damage to him. So that's what I was saying before, kind of in the stats. This ship has such few secondaries that you can't rely on them. Which is why I was trying to turn my main batteries towards him. Couldn't get him on target, but luckily enough, he decided to circle towards our stern, which is where our torpedoes live. You can see as far as anti-aircraft capability goes, 1 fighter shot down, 2 torpedo bombers shot down. We had those 2 squadron torpedo bombers fly right over us. I mean, like, right over us. So they were well within our 3-kilometer anti-aircraft range, and still we were only able to shoot down 2 out of the 5 that were, or out of the 10 that were there. So, okay AA, but not, U.S. cruiser AA. As far as the damage received goes, you can see we took 30 AP shells and 21 HE shells for about 20,000 damage out of the 38,000 health pool. But you could see kind of the tactics when I was engaging those 2 cruisers, making sure that I didn't give them my broadside, making sure that I kept my bow pointed towards them, only swinging, more broadside to them when my rear batteries were able to fire, but then as soon as they had fired while they were reloading, swinging my bow back towards them to make sure that they couldn't get flush, couldn't get citadel hits on me. I don't think I got citadel hit in this game. I'll have to, maybe 1. But, there weren't any really massive damage hits that I took. And you can see I got 4 citadel hits on the enemy, which really helped me take out those U.S. cruisers faster than they took me out. So, all in all, a pretty good game in the Mogami, and just kind of a demonstration of the tactics that you want to be using when you're engaging other cruisers on the water. Again, such a big ship, so much ship to shoot at, that you really want to make sure that you're pointing your bow at the enemy at all times, and only swinging your broadside towards them when your rear batteries are up and ready to go. You can also see that against those 2 U.S. cruisers that also had the 8-inch guns, I felt comfortable enough steaming in to close distances with them, just because, A, I had 1 more 10-inch gun than the New Orleans does, and had the same number as the Pensacola. Plus, I had backup, behind me, and I was trusting my gunnery and my tactics of keeping my bow and not giving them my broadside, not giving them my citadel. And they were giving me their broadsides, at least at the beginning there. And then once I scored a couple citadel hits, they started to try to run away. But with those 3 batteries in front, we were able to keep up a sufficient volume of fire to knock both of them out. If those ships were a Mogami with the 6-inch guns or Cleveland, I would not have closed that sort of distance. The 6-inch gun cruisers just have such a great volume of fire that they can really wreck you if you close to that sort of sweet spot distance of like 6 to 8 kilometers with them. That's not where you want to be. But given that those ships had the 8-inch guns, I felt comfortable getting to that sort of distance just to kind of, you know, make sure that my fire was as accurate as it possibly could be. Also, against other 8-inch equipped U.S. cruisers, you have the torpedo advantage. So if they weren't turning away from me, if they started to turn towards me and try to circle behind me, I would have been able to, you know, equalize that engagement with torpedoes as well. So don't feel like you always have to stand off with, you know, enemy ships. It's really the only ships you want to be standing off against and keeping as far away as possible are 6-inch gun equipped cruisers like the Mogami if it has the 6-inch guns, or a Cleveland. Even really an Omaha can give you trouble if you're missing a lot of shots, if it's maneuvering wildly and you close. You also want to be standing off against battleships. You do not want to be closing in on battleships. Like I said before, if you see battleships coming at you, run away. And by all means, take shots at them with the 8-inch guns, because you can do some good damage. But you want to be staying as far away as possible from battleships, just because you have so few armor and you're such a big cruiser that if they're able to get accurate fire in at you, it's going to be a very, very, very quick game for you. So anyway, that was the first game in this ship. We probably won't do another one, just because this video is starting to get on a little bit with the dock talk. But that, I think, was a pretty good game, just to kind of show off some of the tactics that you can have in this ship. Just to reiterate some key points, you can see, again, we waited at the beginning of the game to see how our fleet was deploying. We picked a primary objective that we wanted to do, which was contest C and contest B and stay in that area. And so we did that. We saw our primary targets coming into view, which were the enemy cruisers, so we immediately engaged them. And then while we were engaging them, we made sure to not give them our citadel, keep our bow pointed as much as possible towards them to avoid those big broadside hits that they could put into us, and then effectively close the distance with other comparable 8-inch equipped cruisers whilst they were giving us our broadside and we weren't giving them our broadside. Wiggling to get our rear turrets in play, but then straightening back out once those guns were on the reload to make sure that we kept as narrow a profile as possible. So in the key points to reiterate there, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do like the Mogami. I am liking the Japanese cruiser line now that we're past the Aoba, and it's just woefully inadequate 6 8-inch guns. That's just way too few guns. The extra 4 that you get on the Mogami really make up the difference. So let me know what you think about this ship, and indeed any other ship. And if there's any ship that you want to see in the future, as far as me taking a look at, let me know in the comments below. If there's any other type of video that you want to see me do, also let me know in the comments below. Someone suggested before, maybe do kind of a map tactics review, just going over one specific map and where certain ships should be positioning themselves on that map in general. And that's something that I probably will be doing in the near future, so look forward to that. And I will be continuing to look at ships in the Japanese cruiser line, in the American cruiser line, in the Japanese battleship line, and on both destroyer lines. And then we should be getting the American battleships and Japanese aircraft carriers in the game pretty soon, which means that I will be definitely taking a look at the American battleships, as that's the line I am most eagerly anticipating to be put in the game. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see, any thoughts on this video, thoughts on the Mogami, or anything else you want to talk about, and I will see you next time.